What's up? Back again, Dagic here. We're going to talk about a little bit of math for the Rocco Seeker Scrounger deck. Just a couple of points I wanted to touch on, mostly for the primer, but I might as well just make the video and upload it as part of the compendium of information. So there was a conversation about whether you should play, Whitemane Lion effects, ally invasions effects, and bounce effects, as opposed to the sacrifice effects. So I went in, I laid out the numbers, and that's what we're going to go over here real quick. So this is my deck as it's laid out right now, right? To Rocco for Seeker of Skybreak, it costs 5 mana. If you metamorph the Rocco Cabaret Caterer, you end up at plus 3 mana. And similarly, the second cast of Rocco for Hanger Scrounger is going to cost 8. And if you use Infernal Plunge instead of Metamorphosis, you get plus 2 mana. This is just the base level. It's not hard math. We're not doing calculus here. Just want to lay it all out. Compared to Whitemane Lion, you Rocco for Seeker for 5 mana. You cast Whitemane Lion, that's -2. Rocco Cabaret for Hanger Scrounger is only going to cost 6 because you're not going to pay an extra commander tax. And if you use Ally Invasion instead of Whitemane Lion, you get -1. Now there's a lot of redundancy here. You have options, but generally there's 1 cost spells and 2 cost creatures. So we break it down. So this is the math for casting both in the same turn. Right, so Rocco for 2 is 5, Metamorphosis is plus 3, Rocco for 3 is 8. Total investment is 10 mana. You'll have both your combo pieces on the battlefield. Infernal Plunge makes 1 less mana than Metamorphosis, so this is pretty straightforward. Metamorphosis is always going to cost 1 more than Infernal Plunge method is always going to cost 1 more than the Metamorphosis method. Rocco for 2 is 5 mana. Ally Invasion costs 1 mana. Rocco for 3 costs 6. That's a total of 12 mana. And similarly, every time we use Whitemane Lion, instead of Ally Invasion, it's going to cost 1 extra mana than the Ally Invasion method. So we're really just going to look at the 1-drops here, because the other ones are always just going to be +1. I got a little table down here, because commander tax is where it becomes relevant. Right, so if our commander tax is 0, this is our first time casting Rocco, the total investment is 10 and 11 for Metamorphosis and Infernal Plunge, and 12 and 13 for Ally Invasion and Whitemane Lion. So for the first pass through, using the sacrifice effects is more mana efficient than the bounce effects. Now, the bounce effects are instants, so they can't be discounted. I don't want to discount anything, but they are less mana efficient. If we're looking for being explosive and we're trying to win on turn 4 and 5, it's probably not going to be the second or third time we cast Rocco there. So maybe we're not talking about replacing the bounce effects with the sacrifice effects, but playing the sacrifice effects is more explosive. So maybe alongside, you cut a couple of the bounce effects for the sacrifice effects so you have the option to be explosive. I don't know. You do what you want to do, but this is the math. All right. Now, the other thing we need to look at is you probably aren't going to be 10 manaing on turn 4 or turn 5, right? You're probably not going to be going for it or maybe 6, I don't know, whatever turn it is. You're probably not going to be just going off and double casting this on turn 6. So we want to look at, consecutive turns, because you don't want to dangle Seeker out there for too long. So if we look at in consecutive turns, Rocco for 2 is 5 mana, so let's pretend it's turn 5. We got 5 lands. Rocco for 2 for 5. Pass the turn. We got Seeker out there. Metamorphosis, sacks Rocco, plus 3. We pay, We pay another, 4? We pay another 4 to cast Rocco. And there we go. We got it. So on turn 1 or turn 5, it costs 5 mana to Rocco, and then on turn 6, it costs 5 mana to Rocco if Metamorphosis is involved. So I mark that as a pass, right? So you can do that. That makes sense. There's no extra pieces involved in going in comboing on consecutive turns, only dangling Seeker for 1 turn. Similarly with with Metamorphosis, you even have a mana available. You have access to a protection spell, Pyroblast or something. With Infernal Plunge, it's Exacxes, so it's going to be 5 and then 6 with Infernal Plunge. So that's a pass. For Alley Invasion, it's 5 and then 7. Rocco for 2 for 5, and then on turn 6, you'd have to bounce the Rocco and then still play for 6, so that's 7. You have to come up with an extra mana somewhere. That's a fail. Rocco for 2 with Whitemane Lion will obviously be a fail if Alley Invasion is a fail. Because it's always going to cost 1 more. But similarly, we made the table because this is the only time that Alley Invasion and Whitemane Lion fail. Once we have a commander tax involved, like a 1 commander tax, they're the same. So Rocco for 2 would be 7 mana, and then Rocco for 3 would be 8. Or Rocco for 3 would be 7 as well. So 7 and 7 still a pass. Infernal Plunge would be 7 and 8. That's still a pass. But Alley Invasion will be 7 and 7, and Whitemane Lion will be 7 and 8. So they both pass. Everything passes then. And similarly, 2 commander tax, that's going to be 9 and 9, 9 and 10, 9 and 7, 9 and 8. So on the second commander tax, it's better to have the bounce spells. On the first commander tax, they're even. They're exactly the same. And for the first tribe, Metamorphosis and Infernal Plunge are more explosive, more effective than the bounce spells. So yeah, and that holds true for both. They're exactly the same with 1 commander tax, and the Alley Invasion and Whitemane Lion are better with 2 commander tax, and Metamorphosis and Infernal Plunge are better with no commander tax. So it's, I'm not trying to prove that they're better. Simply saying that this is what the numbers say. If you're looking to be, if the plan is to be as explosive as possible, you probably want to be playing Metamorphosis and Infernal Plunge as options to reset your Rocco. If you're planning on casting Rocco 5 or 6 times over the course of a game, then yeah, you probably want Whitemane Lion and Alley Invasion instead, or at least alongside, because you're not going to be reliably setting up, 9/9, 10/10, whatever. It's a lot of mana to ask to have available. That's a long game for a pretty fragile combo deck. So yeah, that's a quick breakdown on the numbers there for why I run Metamorphosis and Infernal Plunge over Alley Invasion, really, because Whitemane Lion is back in the deck now, alongside Horn Kavu. But I don't think I'm gonna be moving into Alley Invasion. I want the creatures, and I don't really care so much for that bounce effect. I don't think. But it's up for discussion. Comment. Let me know. Comment on the deck. Comment on the video. Thanks for watching.